something I wanted to do for a while because I got so much from others sharing things that for them were pretty basic, but for me, it's just really, really helpful to get into things. And I think that's especially true with Clay. So what I want to show today is from scratch, a really simple thing, but garbage in, garbage out. When you start with the best possible data, that will make everything in go-to-market downstream much better. So I want to take an imperfect list of companies and domains and make that into a perfect list, meaning we have all the domains. So what we have here is about 200 companies where for roughly half of them we have domains, for half of them we don't. And like, this is how data is. It's usually never really really smooth, and this is how I will approach getting to really, really smooth outputs here. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is, you can save it as a CSV from a Google Sheet, but you can also just copy and paste. So I copied these two columns. If it's like 5,000 columns, I probably wouldn't use copy and paste, but this way I can save a few clicks. So switching over to Clay, I've already created a workbook, and I'm just going to add a new table to that workbook, maybe a little bit smaller. We're going to start with a blank table. By the way, thanks Clay that I don't have to choose anymore with people or company table. And the most important thing here is actually to get the columns right initially. So I'm just a neat freak when it comes to these things, so I always want to have this all the right way. Company name. Then important, select the number of columns you want to paste. Otherwise, I think it doesn't work or gets messy. And paste. That should give us now about 200 companies and some domains. Beautiful. So let me think about it. What we want to have at the outcome is a nice bare domain, which would just be anthropic.com. And we want that for each of these companies. A good starting point is always what internal integrations we have, and especially with finding domains. That's super interesting when we have the company name, because when you go to add column, add enrichment, and you, I'm just going to search for Clearbit. Clearbit, find domain from company name is actually free. Let me give that a thumbs up. So that is a free integration, and yeah, it does exactly that, company name. And I'm even gonna, even though it's free, I'm again a little bit of a neat freak, so I only want this to run if company domain is empty. So this is always in a Clay column in the lower right, only run if. And you would have to know JavaScript, which I don't, so you can use AI and then just describe the formula once. So only run if company domain is empty. Generate formula, don't forget, you get a preview on the right. Okay, it always shows the first 10, or usually shows the first 10. Continue to add fields. I'm by default not adding other fields, which means it would already map out the result into a new column. I don't want that. This is a free integration, so you don't have to run only 10. And here it also doesn't make sense because we have domains, but like I default to first running 10 to see if I did anything wrong. That can save you a lot of trouble and credits, because oftentimes you did the little thing wrong and then you can catch it in the first ones. In this case, it kind of didn't make sense. So that already looks really good. So what you can see here is for physical intelligence, nimble robotics, we didn't have a domain, and now we do, which is cool. So company name to company domain is a little bit tricky because I don't know them. Light Matter, cool name. I would imagine that there's not 50 companies that are called Light Matter, but it is not a unique identifier. A domain is a unique identifier. There's only one apple.com, but Apple as a name could be Apple Bank or Apple Records or Apple whatever. I guess with Apple, it's pretty simple to know which domain you mean, but the more down from there you get, the more ambiguous a name will be. Anyways, so much for the excursion in unique identifiers. We're already pretty good. So we have company domain here. We have this here, and I want to sprinkle some added quality onto this, which is actually we don't have domains for all companies. It can have a variety of reasons. Maybe some don't have a domain. That's perfectly reasonable for some companies. Super early on, odd name, wrong company name, something like that. But what actually is pretty cool is that you can use, of course, Clearbit for something like this, or Google, but in this case, I'm only going to build with the native tools. So I really want to find all the domains. And actually, just to get an idea what we have and like to use another really neat feature here, let's use the merge columns, because what that does, it merges columns. And let's start with the first one, which is, which I always start with the second one, find domain by company name, click in it, domain. So that looks, if we have found a company domain from Clearbit, and if that doesn't have anything, it looks for company domain. In this case, doesn't make a big difference in which order I do it, but there's always good practice to start with the last thing and then move forwards. So we see here we are missing a few, and what I want to, this is already good. The next thing, let me call that all domains. Maybe not the perfect name, but anyways, all domains. It's not quite neat, and I'm gonna add two more things, but I already want to show where this is going. Actually, let me know. Like in the end, you want to have this as a bare domain, but I'm not going to add that step yet. What we are seeing is we are missing a few domains, and I would argue you can stop here and it's going to be perfectly fine. But you can, and this is what I find beautiful about Clay, there's always a solution on most cases. So in this case, what I'm going to do is add an enrichment, and I'm going to use Clearbit. Where are we? Clearbit. And we are going to use the Clearbit AI web researcher. Very important model for something simple like this. Definitely use GPT-4o Mini. I'm going to use Clay credits for that. That is the wrong thing to do. You should always get your OpenAI API key, plug that in, because that will make things like this 10, 20 times cheaper. I'm only doing that because it's a fresh workspace. It doesn't have that API key yet, and it kind of defeats the purpose. But for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to use it. And this is already a little advanced what I'm going to do. So actually, the first thing I'm going to do is do a conditional formula, only run if. And this is, and I think this is not the 101 what I'm doing here. I'm always bringing in some good practices for working in Clay. So I could say only run if all domains is empty. Could do that. I tend to go to the source data, which is, so you are more flexible. If I would delete that column, then this would break, but I'm not going to delete the domains itself. So only run if domain is empty, and if company domain from this is also empty. Sometimes tiny ways to word it really matter. So this won't run in most cases, but it will run in some cases. And what I'm actually going to do here is I could say find the domain of this company, and I want to I'm pretty sure that will already lead to something really good, because it's basically a Google search. It's even better to use SERPA for something like this, but let's not go completely crazy in this. So it's basically a Google search. So a very simple prompt will likely work. But what I want to sprinkle in is how easy you can get to even better data, because in this case, I know I will put in company names over a period of time that should be in the AI space. So I can give it a little bit more than just search for the company name. And I hope this will lead us to 100% domain coverage in this case. So the way I do it is actually this is what I already dictated. I use Super Whisper, so I just have to talk these things, but this is what I got back, and it's like, this is a 10x efficiency hack. I want you to help me write a prompt for an AI agent. It should be optimized for a lower end model. I think I will use GPT-4 or mini, okay, whatever. And here is what I think it's fair that, oh, that's actually not Sonnet. I wanted to say it's fair that Sonnet doesn't get GPT-4 or mini right, but I think that's even not true in this case. Anyways, and here is what I want the prompt to accomplish. The input will be a company name of a company in the tech space. In Kira, I don't know what I said. If the company name is ambiguous, the agent should be biased towards a company that is in the AI space specifically, and the output should only be the company domain. And this is it. This is the prompt that comes back. It's not that crazy, but it's better than just saying find the domain. And I'm just going to copy and paste that here into the Clayagent. This was open, configuration here, which account, then let's put that in. That looks good. And here's the input. Let me put that here. Company name. This is the company name. And actually, like, this could confuse it because it's directly after the examples. Examples sometimes really throw less expensive AI models off, but this is all good. Response should actually, you can have the response already be structured into URL, but I'm gonna leave it as text. You will see why. But basically, output format fields means Clayagent understands there is one thing that is the response, and that should be a text field. Okay, so let's actually run this. And here it's important, really save and run for the first 10 rows. This will not run, but it's important to test it on one manually, one or two. Here it should run because these will be empty. Okay, that looks right. Edge.ai, skilled AI. Okay, this is good. And here we can run column, run all rows. It does show 178 credits, but that's not true. That is because it only checks if the run condition is met once you hit run. And I know it's much, much less, so don't get scared by that. That's the maximum amount, which is why conditionals are so important. Otherwise, you really, really unnecessarily burn through credits. And that looks really good. Here even, okay, I should have truly said, like, sometimes the name is even the domain, but that also doesn't change the Clayagent, which is pretty resilient for these kinds of things. But you have a few examples, and it's also for demonstration's sake, right? So that could be also a very different industry. It could be like mechanical engineering or whatever. But the beauty here is how you can sprinkle with this little trick much better results in here, and this is kind of the point I want to make. Okay, let's look. This looks good. So we have kind of three places where domains can be. Company domain can already have it. The Clearbit integration could have it, which comes together here, or the Clayagent that I've built and sent out. And this is such a simple Clayagent. I think the trick here is really to use the meta prompting, like use Claude or OpenAI to come up with a prompt, because that makes it so much better for most cases. And now what I'm going to do is move the merge column here, add the add input, move that to the top. I want to add the, I hope you see what I'm doing here. Now company domain from Clayagent, response, here we go. And that will now really look in all three places for the domain. The only thing that is yet to be done is to clean up the domains, because the Clayagent domains are already clean. But this is also a free integration, which is, how is it called? Normalize domain, normalize the domain, also free. Input here, oops, that's not what I want. I want the bare domain, all domains. pretty smart, already selected the right thing. That should always run. It's free. Boom. Thank you, Clay. Love the free little integrations. Which is basically a formula, right? So this normalize the domain is a formula you could write on your own. There are some instances where you do want to clean up things with your own formula, but considering this is supposed to be a one-on-one, I don't want to go too much into that. And that leads us to a very, very, very clean, beautiful list of domains. You can do things, for example, when I see play.ht, I guess in this case it will be right. You can also say, hey, have a bias for .com domains or something like that. If you would be in a data environment, if you have a base list where companies, where the top search for one reason or the other may be a French or German or UK domain, but you want the .coms of that company, you can specify that too, especially in the Claygens. Okay, but I hope this was helpful, because from here on, and this is where I'm going to leave it, it was purely to find the domains, but from here on, it's just a matter of cleanup. So let's say normalized domain, normalized, let's leave it at normalized URL. And just to make it a little bit neat, I'm going to duplicate the view in the top left, duplicate view. Let's call it clean view. I always hit refresh because sometimes it doesn't remember that I changed the name. And then I'm going to hide all the other columns, hide all columns, and then I'm going to add back in company name and the final normalized URL. Okay, patience. And if that isn't a beautiful domain list, I don't know what is. So that is where you get basically the 3 levels from this is the domains we have to this is the domains we find with something very simple like the find domain from Clearbit, and then even adding some Clay/AI magic into the fold to come up with something that is really neat. Hope this was helpful. Ping me. Let's end on the neat note. Hope this was helpful. Ping me if you have questions. Take care.